Good morning, everyone, and good morning, Shannon. And we are so happy that you are here. Thank you so much for saying yes to this conversation. I never prepare for the conversation. I just let it go, and we'll see what you are happy to talk about. I have a couple questions in my head, and thank you for saying yes. One information for you. So all of these people, most of them are not even taking a bars class. So this is basically just a um, how would I say, a membership where we inspire people to choose more and come to a bar class and come to more. I'm just saying this because, then I just let you go wherever you want. Dane goes always so far. He uses the clearing statement and even more. But as happened last month, he went over the roof and people were just receiving all of it. So we are open, but just an information that not everyone has taken an access consciousness class. And thank you so much for being here with us. So today's topic is entities and money. And I just wanted to interview you about entities, money creation. I'm a big fan of your podcast. I was listening to that when I wasn't the CF, and it changed so much for me. I always had issues with drugs and alcohol, and I never knew what that was. And I got married and I moved to San Francisco, and my life basically broke down. And I met someone. She was a CF and also a talk to the entities facilitator, and she invited me for a session. She offered it for me for free. And as I arrived and we started to chat, and she was like, do you perceive entities? And I'm like, no, I'm not. I just feel depressed and I feel so bad. And she asked me to leave my phone in the back of the room. And as was she was asking me questions. My Siri was responding to all of those questions that I was amazed. And so that was when the whole journey started for me. And I just wanted to interview about entities. So where I would start, like, would you share with us like how it started for you, how old you were when you, for the first time, you perceived entities, or how was that for you?
Well, I've been perceiving entities all my life. Yeah.
Wow. And were you a child, and did you have any support with them, or how was that for you?
Yes, I was a child. That's a funny question. I think everyone's been a child. Yeah, I was a child. And I actually have been really fortunate to have support in the form of my stepfather, who's Gary Douglas, who's the founder and creator of Access. So I was allowed to be different and encouraged to have my awareness, and it was never expected of me or projected at me that I shouldn't be aware of entities or that being aware of entities was wrong or bad within my family. Outside of my family, I could tell that the world was not super accepting or open to conversations about entities, but I worked through that later when I was older.
And so when you were like a kid, I guess, and it's the next funny thing to say. So when you were like little, um, how could you perceive them? So why am I asking you all of this question? Because we already had some conversation around entities, and people think they don't perceive them because they kind of not, they can't hear them, or when you see like, oh, I can see an entity, it's like, for me, it's not really that I actually see them most of the time. It's more like I have a sense in my body, or my ears tends to, I don't know, how would you say, ringing, and this is how it for me. And I really had to just discover for myself, like, how am I perceiving entities? And that's why I'm asking you all of these questions, because people are like, no, I can't see them, I can't perceive them, no, I don't have a capacity with this. But I guess we, all of us do.
Well, so to get a bit more general, to zoom out the focus, it's like the whole conversation about entities has to start from the awareness that, like, one day you will step out of your body, each and every one of you. And how do you want people to treat you when you no longer have a body?
Hmm.
So if you can change your perspective about what's going on, and what's true is that the world, reality is full of all sorts of things, including entities, but also other stuff like energies and consciousness, and that we are not encouraged to be aware of. We're actively encouraged from the day we're born to exclude a huge amount of energy and information and consciousness. And that's sort of where we're starting this conversation, where we're alive on a planet where the majority of people not only don't want to be aware, they will actually be violent energetically and physically and psychically towards those who are different or who see the world different, or, you know, that have access to energy and information that is judged as different or wrong. But I'm really excited about groups like this and conversations like this with people who know that something else is possible. We wouldn't be having this conversation, and all you guys wouldn't be here unless you knew that something else was possible. And so then becomes the journey of how do you have that magical world that you hope is real, but no one believes in, no one acknowledges, almost no one functions from. And that's where the power of your reality and your choice really comes in. So, like, on my path of entity awareness and consciousness, I really had to confront the fact that if I talk to ghosts, that I would be judged as a freak and that I would be weird. And that was the biggest obstacle for me in my early 20s. It's like, I didn't want my friends to think I was a freak. I have long gotten over that because I realized that excluding awareness of entities or pretending like magic doesn't exist, pretending like I'm not aware, was in a form like creating some sort of slow suicide where parts and pieces of me, I would no longer have access to who I am. And I'm far more interested in being me and having everything that's possible for me than fitting in, being normal, and being judged as a moral, safe person. I would much rather have all of the possibility that talking to the entities can be for me.
I'm gonna cry because you're putting into words everything that is going on in my work, because I'm like stopping myself so much because I don't want people to think I'm a freak. And it's just so amazing to watch you doing what you are doing, because
Yeah.
I never thought you are a freak, right? Like you and you are like, you seem to me like this amazing lady who creates a lot, makes a lot of money, and you don't seem to me weird. You don't dress weird, you don't talk weird. And like, can we talk about this a little bit? Like, like, what's the way? I know it's like not the best question, sorry about that, but like, I'm really struggling with this because most like everyone in this call, they know, and also my translator, she's laughing because I try to be normal. I don't want people to think I'm like weird and freak and all of that above. And I think most of us, this is what it is. And
Oh,
not everyone had a stepfather like Gary Douglas, so we are not really empowered to be ourselves
well,
or
I would like to challenge that point of view that I'm like I am because of my dad, because I have three other siblings, and trust me, we're not all making the same choices. So it wasn't just our parents, like I've actually made some very specific choices regardless. Um, and is normal fun? Like, are you having fun being normal? Is that fun for you?
no.
Like, so, for me, I would so much rather be happy and have fun than be normal. The world So like if you let other people's points of view and judgments dictate and determine your life, are you free or are you a slave?
Slave, big
And
time.
I just can't be a slave. I think that's probably the difference. I just am so not willing to be controlled. So for me, it was a matter of like, am I gonna have like magic and the miracle and the mystery and the possibility of consciousness? Or am I gonna be normal, average, real, and the same as everybody else? Unfortunately, you really do have to make a choice because this reality is so anti-consciousness. It's so don't be aware that what would it take for the world to like flip where awareness was actually embraced and ignoring your awareness was actually like uncommon. Like it was uncommon for people to not be to like resist awareness. Like I would really love to live in a world like that. You know that quote from Gandhi or Nelson Mandela or Gandhi? One of the two, be the change you want to see in the world. I think it was Gandhi. Be the change you want to see in the world. I've really taken that to heart.
I actually, it's inspiring to me because I am kind of like, I go under people to like me. And it's changed so much over the years,
Wow.
honestly. But
Yeah.
it's still like, and what you just said, like you're not willing to be controlled. What, like, can you give us some tools to get there? Because it's really inspiring to me in many ways. It's I'm watching you. I can see that in your word. I like that when you walk into a room, being in a class or something, is like you can tell like people know who you are and like they're not gonna mess with you. And it's and I like that. And I am always like, "Ah, I want this. I just really want that." And because most of us we rather go under people or give up ourselves or what we are than being willing to be that energy.
Well, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So what are you avoiding?
Thank you. Wow. Wow. Thank you. Hmm.
To a certain
Mhm.
degree, it's easier to go under others, as you said, or I would call it be controlled by other people's points of view, because then you never have to be the leader in your own life.
Hmm.
You're always at the effect of, you are in a constant state of reaction to the world around you, which is, to be fair, where most people live their lives. And I have done that as well. I know that one personally. And my commitment to consciousness, which my definition of consciousness is the inclusion of everything and the judgment of nothing. And my commitment to that started very early on because I was really not, I don't really fit. And I really struggled in my early years. Like I was very suicidal as a teenager. I came very close multiple times to killing myself. And Gary was, so Gary, who's my father who raised me, who is the creator of Access, he sort of like tricked me into like getting my bars run and using the tools because I was a teenager and I didn't want to do the weird stuff my dad was doing. And like, you're weird and I don't want to be weird, but I am also in a lot of pain and I am really unhappy. And he sort of tricked me into getting my bars run and using the tools. And I started noticing that like I was starting to get happier. And I finally made the connection that it was the tools of access that were helping me not want to kill myself and use drugs and be totally unconscious. And as soon as there was this spark of consciousness that was this gift that I gave myself, that my father stimulated in me, and that I'm pretty sure I came to this life to have and to be. And I was so miserable that I had to do something different. Like, actually can't be normal. So I don't really have the luxury of fitting in. Like if I start fitting, I start dying. So I just chose me. And that has meant that I get rewarded. I get all these great rewards from the universe for being me. Like the universe wants to support. Consciousness is this incredible gift that will support each and every one of us. But the prerequisite is like you be you. So I've got the gift, I've gotten to gain being me, but I've also had to lose a lot of what makes me fit into reality. So you don't really get to be normal and get granted like your passport to consciousness. You sort of have to lose a lot of the ability to fit in, the ability to be normal, the ability to be liked, to be validated, all of which I was willing to sacrifice to have ease, joy, and glory, and the bliss of receiving consciousness.
I have to re-listen this conversation because I hear you, but it's some things I'm like, oh my God, it's so amazing. Thank you. So can you just share a little bit so you wrote two books. One is Talk to the Entities, which is translated to Hungarian. You guys, we're gonna put the link in the chat so you can buy it in Hungarian if you will. If you wish. And also Shannon has the book Beings of Light, which is the latest book. So before this whole journey started for you, you said you were doing drugs and then escaping this reality. And what happened to you when you started changing things, and yeah, how that started for you, like the journey of consciousness or choosing yourself more?
Yeah, I was obviously doing access from a pretty young age, like definitely in my teens, and Gary was getting access going more, so it wasn't as popular as it is now, and it wasn't anywhere as big. But I dropped out of I dropped out of art school because I was miserable there, and I moved back to my hometown where I grew up, and I wanted to facilitate access, but I didn't really know how to start a business. I was 20 years old. So I became a Pilates instructor instead. And I, really enjoyed that for some years. But then I was traveling and going to a lot of access classes and starting to talk to the entities myself. And the woman who owned the Pilates studio where I was working, she was like, look, you're going to have to make a choice. Because I was like taking all this time off to go to access classes or to, do stuff for talk to the entities. And she said, look, like you're going to have to make a choice. You can't keep taking all this time off. And I chose talk to the entities and access. And when I was really nervous because I had no idea if it would work or if it could work. And I was giving up the stability of a predictable income. And that's it. I started and I just started doing these like small introduction classes to talk to the entities, like 2-hour talks about awareness and entities, um, and I would do private sessions. And I was so blown away at how many people received me and how many people were interested in gaining more awareness about entities. And one of the things that was amazing was perceiving how much the entities were shifting in these small classes and these sessions that I was doing. And Talk to the Entities really wanted to exist. So it really pushed me to keep going and to create. And like I say, yes, I am the creator of Talk to the Entities, but I'm really a co-creator because I am literally creating with entities. And I don't mean that theoretically, and I don't mean that significantly. I mean that literally. There are many entities who run Talk to the Entities, and I am part of their vision. So I'm the mouthpiece, but I am definitely not the source. I co-authored both of the Talk to the Entities books with entities, and it's a completely different place to function from because nobody talks about that. And if anybody does talk about creating with entities or working with entities, it's usually so creepy and so significant and like, whoa. And that's just not this, and that's not me. It's like, so I started Talk to the Entities in my early 20s and started working out what it was and sharing the tools that I used to not die and I realized that talking to entities was this incredible power and could be this bright light and magic that I had never realized that it could be. For me, just dealing with the spirit world was always, I had to like survive my awareness of entities. It was always so intense and scary and heavy until I realized that there were also all these other entities that are bright and light and will contribute. And we have really amazing tools in Talk to the Entities to clear and handle heavy unconscious entities, and then other tools to make it easy for you to open up to all the beings that desire to contribute, like all the beings of consciousness that desire to be the gift that they can be in our world and to all of us.
As you talked, I had an accident 10 years ago, and I had to go back to the hospital like every week to just check in my leg. And once a friend of mine, he came pick me up because I was using my scratches. And I remember he dropped me off front of the hospital. He was like, hey, just go up. I will find a parking spot. I will come back to you. And I remember I went to the floor where my doctor was. I was waiting there. And my next picture was, I woke up in the room and everybody's around me, like, what happened? What happened? And I was like, oh my gosh, what happened? And then the nurse started to yell. She's like, oh my God, she's losing her hair. So my hair was falling off. And I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And I felt like so bad. So they left the room for some reason. And I called my neighbor because I remember she was working with entities. She had this tool that she asked questions and it moved. I don't know if you know that.
I have, yeah.
And I called her. I'm like, hey, something really weird happened to me. I don't know what is this. Like my hair is falling off, and then I just, I I went unconscious. She was like, let me ask some questions. So that thing. So she was kind of in a point of view that she gonna clear my entities. So it was a different thing. But then it helped. And then when I took my first foundation class, I learned that I don't need help. I can do it for myself. But that was so clear. Oh my gosh, I have something around this. There is something. But I always felt like, I'm like, oh, I can't talk about this to anyone. I have to, keep it as a secret because everyone would think I am crazy.
Yeah, but isn't it interesting? Like, look how many people are here. There's almost 180 people here to talk about ghosts.
And
It's actually,
can I say something? I'm so sorry. I don't want to interrupt you. But it's 8 a.m. Everyone is getting to work. We usually do this 7 p.m. when everyone is already home. And we are not really 180 people here because, sometimes we are just 100 people, sometimes more. Like, it's just amazing. I was watching how many people are here and I'm like, wow, this is amazing.
entities are interesting and people are interested. So we really need to update our thinking that it's not okay to talk about ghosts. I love to bring up ghosts when I'm like talking to normal people. And I would say almost everybody is open and like interested and knows. Like I have this interior, we purchased a house in England last autumn and it's been being renovated and I have an interior designer. And she in England, as in Hungary, well, everything's very old compared to where I'm from in California, but she works in this, her studio is in a church that was built in like a church building that was built in like the 1300s. So it's very old, it's very enchanted. And she was telling me, she was like, when I'm here alone at night, I like get super freaked out. Like it's super creepy. And I said, is it creepy or is it enchanted? And she was like, what do you mean? And I was like, are there cool, and I was like, are there cool tree spirits in that tree over there? And she was like, I always thought there were. So instead of her rejecting me talking about the tree spirits, she was like, yes, I knew it. She was like, I knew it. And I get this a lot where people are actually looking, they know that there are entities, they perceive them, but they don't really have the place to which to own it for themselves until they let themselves, obviously. But the world is changing. Like it's actually popular to see ghosts now, at least in my world, it's popular. And there's a lot of people who are interested and I'm always surprised. It's really, I think, information that people are really starving for.
Mm, wow. Wow. Yeah. Um, so what I see with most of the people that they have a point of view that they can do one thing with an entity, clear them or get rid of them. But I heard
Yeah.
you many times in your podcast that there are many, 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 many things that you can do with ghosts or entities as you were. Can you share a little bit like what can you do with them? Like, because I know you created, and you just said that you created the whole Talk to the Entities or co-created the book and so on. So what can we
Actually, I would say there's actually really only four things you do with entities. You clear them, which can be so helpful, and not to underestimate that, because some entities just really have to be cleared. Um, Communicate, then that's where talking to them comes in. Receiving, which I was shocked to discover because I was in so much resistance and reaction to entities, that when I had these essentially like light beings. You could call them like angels, or like beings of light, or like consciousness beings. We could call them all sorts of things, but these really dynamic, bright beings came many years ago to me, and I had no idea what to do. I tried to clear, I tried to communicate, and nothing was working, and they wouldn't go away. And through relaxing, I finally realized that they were trying to contribute something to me.
Mm.
And that changed my life in the most profound way. And I had been completely shutting out all of these light beings, or I don't, whatever you guys want to call them, because they don't really have names, but they do exist. And realizing that there were all these beings who would contribute if I received them was probably my biggest fortune, my biggest striking gold ever. And so we had the tools of clearing, communicating, and receiving for many years and Talk to the Entities. And then the fourth tool came, I believe, when enough people were more willing to work with entities. And that fourth aspect is cooperation. And cooperation is essentially not something people are hugely good at. We're not really taught to cooperate. Our governments don't cooperate. Families tend to not be cooperative. Cooperation is really the honoring and inclusion of others, and the inclusion and honoring of you in the process. So cooperating with entities is a completely different world, where you include entities, you don't reject them, you don't judge them because they're not like you don't judge you for perceiving entities, you cooperate with your awareness. Essentially, my target with Talk to the Entities is that all beings would be included and none would be judged.
You you talked about, so when we die, we're gonna be an entity. We are an entity even now, just we have a body, but you said that there are different kind of entities, and I'm just so curious, like what is your awareness? I read your book, Beings of Light. That was amazing. I just discovered the whole. I'm like, I was always aware of all of this. I just moved out of Budapest because it was too busy. So I'm living outside, and it's just such a beautiful energy out here. This area used to be like fields, so we're not people not living here. It's just they built these houses like 5 years ago or so, and it's just so nice. There is nothing around here, and I'm just realizing sometimes I go outside, I feel like beings are jumping on the, on the ground and on the trees. Like, can you talk a little bit? What is your awareness? What you discovered with them, like beyond entities with our bodies?
Well, one of the things that I believe science or man will eventually discover, because it already exists, but there is no lens through which to analyze energy or entities. Be That's a whole other conversation. Other than awareness, like everyone can have awareness, but you can't prove awareness. So that's why a lot of magic and entities are excluded, because you can't prove it. You can only know it. And I believe that in the future, and it might be 300 to 500 years into the future, there will be a lot more awareness and information and codification about the spirit world, in that right now we have codifications for the plant kingdom, the bacteria, the microbiotic kingdom, the animal kingdom, genus, final genus, phylum, and species. Like, there's been a lot of discovery and study of the natural biological world, and there is as much diversity in the spirit world as there is in the plant, animal, and microbiotic world. So when we're talking about entities, like when you talk about plants, what you're really including is hundreds and thousands of species of plants that perform all sorts of different functions on Earth. And that is also true of the spirit world. There are countless amounts of variation. What most of us perceive are sort of like either relatives that have passed over because we're more directly connected with them, or demons, or entities that like speak our language. But then there's all these other entities that don't speak our language, that don't seem human, that never were human, never will be human, that communicate in different ways, that have their place in the entity kingdom.
Yeah, the ecosystem maybe. Wow, then you just moved to the UK, so it's gonna be exciting there. Anytime I go there, it's just like such a like magical experience for me, being especially outside of London. It's beautiful and it's like something different. Um, so I wanted to ask you about like today's topic was entities and money. And I know you talked a lot about how you created money even with entities, but even beyond that. And you are one of the main facilitator for Right Riches for You. Would you mind if you jump a little bit there, or there is
Sure.
anything?
Yeah, I'm really sorry. I just need to mute myself for like 30 seconds. I have
Yes.
something in the oven that I can
Yes.
smell, and I just want to make sure it's not going to, I'll be
Yeah,
right back,
sure.
you guys. I apologize.
No, no worries. Then I just drink my coffee.
All good. It's looking
Okay.
good.
I just drink my coffee
So,
then.
yeah,
Yeah.
so money is an interesting one. It's obviously a really big part of our lives on the planet, but it's also one of the things, and a lot of my money knowledge, I was really taught by my dad, who is a money genius, in my opinion. And one of the things that he says is like, you don't have a money problem, you have a receiving problem. And since I value consciousness first before I value consciousness first, which means that the elements of ease, joy, and glory are the most relevant to me. I prioritize them the most. That also means that if I'm going to honor consciousness, that I will allow all of life to be ease, joy, and glory for me, including money. So I really had to change the way that I functioned with money, because I was raised, my dad is a money genius, but he wasn't always that way. And I grew up around a lot of other people, and we are educated by our environment to a really large degree. And I was raised in a household where money was very stressful and very difficult, as many of us can relate to. And I knew a lot of people who had a lot of pain around money. And so I thought that that was normal. So I really had to re-educate myself about, and I really had to choose my reality with money, which is actually something that all of us can do.
And we are like, oh, okay, how we can do that. It's I like what you're just sharing, because most of us, and honestly, just also me, I would assume that you got it right from the very beginning, and it was always easy for you.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, I like but that's what we assume, right? Like, oh yeah, she got it. She got it. Like, it was always easy for her. But I know from your stories, from your podcast and your book and more, that it wasn't that way, and you changed it. Like, it would be a really stupid question to ask, how did you do that? But like, I would go to, can you
Well, I
just
told you, I actually already told you.
receiving more?
Receiving. And I had to make it's like all of life comes to me with ease and joy and glory. Like I do, like I'm that's literal for me. So if money it's hard, I know that I've now left consciousness and I've bought into something else. So
Mm.
I pay attention to the way that I think. Like I am obsessive compulsive presence with how I think. Because we indulge in all of this, all of these thoughts that limit us. And if you're a little bit, if you're willing to own that your point of view creates your reality. This is sort of like that thing about like, are you going to be in reaction to what people think about you, or are you going to be in action about what you can create? Are you going to live in reaction to money, or are you going to be in action about what you can create and choose with money? A lot of it comes from the choice to be the chooser, the creator of your reality, or to be at the effect of points of view that you think are greater than you.
Wow. Oh, you know, what I see with most of the people, because I never had money until I came across access consciousness, and for the very first 5 years, I was kind of using the tools, but like not really living by them, right? Like I wasn't like, it was mostly like a doing than a being. And then something happened to me, and I realized I had nothing left, just these tools. I got divorced, and I was living in San Francisco. I moved back to here to Budapest, and I had $500 in my bank account, and I was like,
Right.
fuck, what am I gonna
You're
do?
like, I gotta do something different.
Yeah, yes. And that then I was like, I need to change this. Like, it's not gonna happen to me ever again. That was the last, because I created that many times
Cool.
before.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, see, exactly. You made a choice.
Yes. Well, why do we wait until something shitty happens to us that we make
I
that
don't
choice?
know. Because all of life comes to me with ease and joy and glory is like not what we're taught. We're taught like suffer correctly, and if you suffer right enough, you'll be like rewarded when you go to heaven or something. Like we're taught really weird stuff rather than like imagine if from the day you were born, you were taught like you're a gift.
Mm.
Your life is a free gift, and this world is full of infinite energy that you can have. Now, what are you going to choose?
Mm. Wow. I heard you saying once that money is easy for you. And I'm like, I want that. And it wasn't from the, from the space that, oh, it's easy that way. It was just like you choose to have ease with money. That was beyond that.
Yeah. Sorry. Yes.
And I just, the same thing, sometimes it happens to me when I hear someone saying something I don't really understand, but like I got the energy of it. And he was like, okay, how can I choose ease with money? It for me, it changed so much over the years, but I know with people, I had so many conversations in classes, beyond classes, like we tend not to choose ease, and we have the point of view that, is like, I, not just like I have to struggle, but we are Hungarians, especially, us. But we have this point, like so deep point of view that we have to struggle. We can make just a little money, survive the month. Not just Hungarians, I guess. Now I'm thinking is like the same thing in the US, I guess, for many people. But
I was going to say it's actually pretty prevalent on the planet amongst everybody.
yeah. So what tool we can offer to those people who are still in that space where they think, oh yeah, it's easy for Shannon. Look at how spacey she is, or it's easy for this person or that person, but it cannot happen to me. Like, how can people get out of that point of view?
Why would you want them to get out of that point of view?
I
Are
knew
they
it was coming. I knew it's coming. I'm like,
like, I guess my general point of view is it doesn't really matter what anybody chooses. It's all fine. Like, if you want to suffer, like, enjoy that, you know? And if you don't, then don't. Like, it's all possible. That's what's so cool about consciousness. It includes everything. Like, you can have money and you can have no money, and both are totally possible. What dictates and determines what you get?
wow.
Your
Wow.
choice.
Thank you.
I would really love for everyone to sort of like go back to like life, kindergarten, like reset and get educated from day one that like you're the chooser.
Mm.
It's really the choice that's the missing link in what shows in the creative aspect of life. And I know choice is like such a frustrating thing to hear because people think they're choosing or they don't know, they convince themselves they don't know how to choose.
Yeah.
You do.
Can I ask you another question? I'm seeing you. I can't remember when was that. It was a couple years ago. I was preparing myself to become a CF and I bought the reference materials. And somewhere I find a sentence from Gary. He said, if you want to out-create your money situation, you have to give up the point of view that you create your money to fulfill your needs. And I was like, oh my God. And I realized I was creating the money to be able to pay for my rent, to be able to afford, food or just the minimum. And I never went beyond, like creating something beyond that. And what I like about you, like, I know we didn't meet before a couple of times only, but as I follow you and I listen to your podcast conversations or CF calls and anything, like I love what you chose, that you went beyond yourself and then you do action for future. You choose, and all those choices that you make, I think, can you talk about that? Like, how can people overcome of just creating what fulfill their needs and have more, like, to create something beyond that in the world? Because that's, for most people, this is not even possible or not even a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if you were an infinite being, would you have any needs?
No.
And if you were an infinite being, what could you choose?
Wow. Um, what, like, this is all comes down to you to choose more consciousness when it comes to choosing to create things that, like, action for future, many people might don't know about. It was you, right, who had the idea of
No, Actions for Futures was one of Gary's ideas and creations.
yeah, but you were one of the biggest supporters of it.
Yeah.
um can you say a little bit about that? That's beautiful.
Every choice you make today will create or destroy the future. And that's how powerful our choices are. It's like, have you guys ever made any choices that have led to something disastrous in your future that you were like, that you had to fix? Have you ever made a choice that expanded your life in your future? What if you owned the choices that, like, what choice could you make today to create the life, the living, the reality, the money that you'd like to have, and the world that you'd like to live in now and into the future? And choice can be logical, linear, and make sense. And choice can also not feel like anything. It can be totally undefined, completely inconceivable. But if you're willing to receive even what you can't control, and I think that that's where a lot of us shoot ourselves in the foot with creation and money, is that we would rather control than receive what we cannot conceive of. Can you conceive of infinite being? Can you control infinite being? No. Can you
Yeah.
be an infinite being? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Well, I saw that we're out of we're out of time. I'm so sorry, but it was just so exciting to talk to you, and it was just such an amazing conversation. Thank you so much, Shannon. I I always have so one thing I would like to share with everyone what you have coming up in the next month, so people might join you on your journey. I know you have a membership, a monthly membership. It's Club Consciousness. Is it open to new members now?
Yeah, I do a monthly call. It's not translated though, it's only in English.
Yeah.
So just to be aware of that. Yeah, Club Consciousness is always open. It's got a revolving door, people come and go. I do that every month. I also have a stretch of Talk to the Entities classes coming up in July that haven't been announced yet. I'm going to be in Mexico, but as many of you guys would know, we have Zoom and we do a lot of stuff online. So if you're interested in Talk to the Entities, there are many Talk to the Entities Hungarian facilitators who are brilliant. And I myself will be doing Talk to the Entities classes that can be easily translated into Hungarian in early July. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And what is the prerequisite for Talk to the Entities? Foundation, maybe?
Now you're asking me tough questions I don't have the answers to. I actually,
Yeah, we can check. We can check.
yeah,
We can check. I think maybe foundation. Like, yeah.
I think to do a Talk to the Entities beginning class with me, you might have to do foundation. I actually am not sure. I apologize. I'm
No,
not
no,
really
no
in
worries.
charge of that.
Thank you. And just a last question to you, which we always ask any guests we have on here. So if you could have a message to the world on, I don't know, on a big board and everyone could see, what would be your message today?
All of life comes to me with ease and joy and glory.
And you actually had one. I saw that. That's so cool. Thank you so much, Shannon. This is
Awesome.
like, it's amazing. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having me. Bye, guys.
Bye. Oké. Visszaszerezhetjük a